What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. Hope you're all doing wonderful today. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here, and as usual, let's get right into today's Reddit posts. Next door neighbors think I'm hacking them and might try to sue. I'll preface this with a couple things. I live in Florida, so this kind of behavior probably isn't all that uncommon. I've been living next to this neighbor for 6 years. This has been an ongoing issue and hasn't been resolved. It may not be because in my case, no news is good news. They are about 60 years old. I'm mid-30s. We play sleeping sounds over a Bluetooth speaker in our bedroom all night, so we don't hear the nearby train passing at night or street racers screaming down the nearby highways in the early hours. We work from home, so we are almost always home, and as such, we do frequently run our air conditioner. Important to the story. One morning I wake up to a notification on my phone from our front door camera, showing our local police force knocking at my door at 4:30 a.m. We didn't wake up and answer because we play sleep sounds through a Bluetooth speaker in our bedroom and didn't hear the knock. I have no idea what this is about, but my first instinct is someone impersonating the police attempting to do a home invasion. I call the local sheriff's office to find out what's up. They say they can't really tell me anything other than it was a noise complaint, but it's logged as a dispute in their system. They say that the only way I can get more info is if the responding officer calls me. I say okay and give them my number for him to call me back. Since he's a night shift officer, it's going to take some time to get a call back. In the meantime, I'm reviewing the camera footage and realize it's my next door neighbors who called on me. I can tell because my other cameras show the officer first visiting my neighbors before coming over to my house. So being the good neighbor that I am, I go over to their house to find out what the issue is, to resolve it if I can. I can hear them inside through the door, and it takes 2 rings to get them to open the door. The conversation goes something like this. Hi, I noticed the local police force visited me last night around 4 a.m., and them interrupting. You're going to have to talk to them about that. Slams door in my face. I'm standing there dumbfounded because I have no clue what I did to deserve that treatment, so I ring again. I don't understand. Why are you... Them interrupting again. Don't act like you don't know what you're doing. I have no idea what you're talking about. Of course you don't. I have no idea. Well, you don't live here, so you wouldn't. Just keep doing what you're doing and causing more damage than you already have. Slams door again. I stand there for a few seconds, utterly dumbstruck about what just happened. Heart pounding because this came out of nowhere and I wasn't expecting such rudeness. So I walk back home just completely confused. So I go back to my camera footage and try to suss out what the problem is, poring over anything I can think of happening around the time they called the police. I find a few things that could be what they're unhappy about, but nothing in my control. Train passing, Bluetooth connecting to their home. That turned out to not be it, and I think this is just a big misunderstanding. All I can do is wait for the call from the officer to find out more information. Later in the day, 5:30 p.m. or so, the officer calls back. I let him know that I saw he visited me on the camera and wanted to know what the situation was. He proceeds to explain that my neighbors think I have some kind of machine in my house, which is interfering with their appliances that's running all the time. My jaw is on the floor right now because I don't own anything like that, and we're in 2 single-family households with independent meters, so nothing I do in my home should have any impact on them. I explain all of this, and he concedes that the neighbor wasn't making a lot of sense, and seemed like they were rambling a bit, and he really only came over to my place to cover himself, which is really standard procedure. He recommends that I keep track of these incidents should I need them later on. As a quick aside, during the day before he called back, my mother-in-law had to move her car out of our driveway so a car in the garage could leave. They parked nearby on the street, not in front of the neighbor's house, but close enough, apparently, to agitate them, because they decided that instead of parking in an empty driveway, they would instead back up very close to the front bumper of my mother-in-law's car. This happens multiple times throughout the day without mother-in-law's car moving. I tell her to wait until they leave to move it back into the driveway, so there's no claim of mother-in-law hitting their car. I have footage of all this happening throughout the day. Later in the week, I get an email from the property manager of the HOA we live in, asking me to call him. He tells me that he has a voicemail from the neighbor complaining about me. I stop him there and ask him to let me give what I know first, so he knows I'm not making things up. I explained what the other officer told me, and he said that's pretty much spot on. But I learned new details because he plays the voicemail for me. It turns out that I have a, quote, laser lamp that is turned up too high and is interfering with their appliances that I've used to hack into their computer and their router, and that I have a generator in the back of my house that's constantly running. Firstly, I have no clue what a laser lamp is. I'm a software engineer, so I'm fairly technically savvy, but I've never heard of anything like this before. Second, I don't own a generator. The only thing that makes noise outside of my house at night would be my air conditioner. We like it cool in the house at night, and it is Florida. The property manager suspects the laser lamp is like some kind of handheld jamming device that interferes with things like cell phones. He also explains that he's had a similar complaint from this person before about something similar, but not me personally. Anyhow, he's dubious about this because it sounds very strange and it's not the first time they've made claims like this. I get a copy of this voicemail since it's official record through the HOA, which I'm entitled to as a member. So life goes on, and we try to ignore the situation because we've done nothing to these neighbors except leave them alone and have no idea what has their panties in a bunch. A few days later, I wake up again to find notifications of yet more police arriving in the night, this time at about 1:30 a.m. Why they think something is going to get resolved in the middle of the night, I don't know. Again, we don't answer because we're asleep and don't hear the door because of our sleep sounds. I didn't bother to get a call back from the responding officers this time, but I did call and ask them to send an officer out to mediate a conversation between my neighbor and I, since they really didn't seem to want to talk to me. I thought since they were calling the police, they'd be more receptive to that conversation. Boy, was I wrong. Before the police went to the neighbor's house, I had them listen to my air conditioner to see if they thought the noise was excessive. That's a reasonable concern if it's too loud. They thought it sounded perfectly normal to their ears. While they're talking, I overhear the neighbor say, "They're using too much power." I double-checked my energy bill, and while it's probably a little higher than average, it's not ridiculous. Around 1,000 kilowatt hours, $130. Regardless, this shouldn't affect them and I can use as much as I want. I pay for it. The police come back over to me and say he doesn't want to talk, that there's nothing to talk about, and that they're speaking with the state attorney, which means to me that they want to press charges. Now, I've done nothing wrong, don't know what they're on about, and start to get real nervous about a lawsuit. Literally everyone I've shared this story with has said this is crazy town stuff. Nothing has happened yet, but after speaking with an attorney myself, there's really nothing I can do until they do something. If they continue to call the police out in the middle of the night, I might be able to get an injunction, but we're not there yet. Here's hoping that's the end of it. Yeah, it's gotta be some dementia or mental illness going on with those guys. I mean, they're obviously delusional and their complaints are not based in reality at all, so a lawsuit is honestly the last thing I would worry about. I'd be more concerned about their unhinged behavior moving forward. Refusing to sell a sliver of my property to the neighbors after they built on it. I bought my house/property in 2014. My neighbors have been living next door since 2012. Along with those neighbors, I also share a property line with another set of neighbors whose backyard meets my backyard. We ended up having a disagreement with the backyard neighbor over who was responsible for some trees close to the property line, so I had a property survey done because neither of us had one. So the survey was completed. Backyard neighbor still hates me 3 years later, but that's not where my inquiry stems from. The survey revealed that the other neighbors with whom we share a side yard line planted landscaping and built a fence about 6 feet into my yard. I suspected this was the case when they did it, but I didn't want to confront them because I didn't have a survey to prove anything. After the survey, I did inform them that their fence and landscaping were on my side. They weren't happy and insisted that my survey was wrong, and that the multiple people who lived here before me always used an old hedgerow that was long gone when I came, as the divider. I told them I don't know anything about that, but the results of my legal property survey are right here. They became confrontational and told me they were going to call their lawyer, and I hadn't even made any kind of request at that point. Fast forward about a month, they asked if they could buy the sliver of property that their fence was built on. Within this time, I found out that they had actually had their own property survey done a year after they moved in. This irritated me because they knew all along where the line was, legally, But they decided to build over it anyway based on what someone had apparently told them about some hedgerow. So I said I didn't want to sell any of the property, partially because of that and partially because the fence they built is only about 3 feet from my shed, which is too close based on zoning laws where I live. I was also upset that instead of making this request from the start, they threatened me with calling their lawyer. They're middle-aged people and I bought my house when I was 21. So to me it feels like they thought they could take advantage of a younger couple and do whatever they wanted. They did move the landscaping, but the fence still stands where it has been. I had suggested drawing up an agreement that allows them to use the property for the fence, but if they ever move, I'd like that fence taken down to prevent problems with future owners. They didn't like that and told me in a fit that they'd just move the fence back onto their own property. Now they've been avoiding talking to me about it for 3 years. But I guess it's whatever. I'm not a confrontational person. It does bother me because I know they've been talking to other neighbors and people in town, and telling them my husband and I are assholes for not just selling them the property and expecting them to move their fence, even though I've never actually said that. Entitled people think it's okay to let their kid trash a homeless man's camp. I am homeless. I don't drink and I don't do drugs. I am homeless because of a few unfortunate events, a medical issue that took away my career. I still haven't been given an actual factual diagnosis, and a bitter divorce. I am waiting on disability. Today is Victoria Day, a Canadian holiday. I have a decently hidden campsite in the woods. To be fair, it's more of a hobo shack. Well, the area is super busy, so I went out for the day. I came back not even half an hour ago and went by my shack. What do I find? Parents with their little demons at my shack. They were playing inside my shack. Now I get it. I don't have much in the way of privacy. But who in their right mind would ever even approach a shack like that in the woods? I saw them in my shack. I just kept walking. I didn't let them see me. I just don't need that trouble. But hell, I just got back. They had left, and they trashed the place. I like to live clean. Yeah, I live in the woods, but I still have some pride. But they let their kids trash my camp. They messed up my bed, tossed my canned food, and dumped my cooler. I had some meat I was planning on having for dinner. They just dumped everything. I am beyond frustrated. Alright guys, that's all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, have an awesome day, and I'll see you all next time.